How did you publish it? Can you tell us a little bit? Because I think a lot of people who are listening are writers and are always interested in the process. So when did you, when you finished it, or was it while you were writing or putting the stories together that you were like, you know what, I really want to get this thing out into the world?
I was very inspired by a good friend of mine who lives in Rome. She is also an author. Her name is Flavia Brunetti. And she and I had worked in Rome on a blog together in the days of blogs, getting invited to all sorts of, store openings and tours and all sorts of things to write about it on the blog, which was so fun. And we'd always, we were so similar in that we both were always writing and we were doing this blog thing, but what we really wanted was to work on our fiction. And at some point, Flavia just, she had a book. It was coming out. It was being published. And I was looking at her going, Flavia wrote a book. All of these other authors that I'm admiring are, of course, like the canon, like Margaret Atwood or whatever, so they just seems so far away from me. And suddenly someone I knew whose writing I respect and love so much was publishing a book. And it just made me suddenly realize this is not something to do someday. This is something to do now. And I'd always had in my head, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do this. And she really inspired me to try to make it happen now instead of someday. And so I actually talked to her. Of course, I asked her, what did you do? How did this work? And she had gotten in touch with a very small independent publisher in Italy called Ali Ribelli Edizioni. And she said, why don't you write to them? Just see what they say. And so I spent months putting together the collection. I was writing more stories. I was putting together a way to present the stories. I wrote to them. We had a little bit of a back and forth, and they said, okay, we can publish it. And it was kind of like, okay, well, was that too easy? I mean, I don't know. I just expected them to say, that, there's no way, you're not ready. But, I finally realized that I was ready. And it was my idea to have the story in parallel text, which I found, I just thought, for me, that was very important to have. They said, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. We could just publish the English one. And, but for me, having the parallel text on both pages facing each other is sort of the physical representation of the intermezzo. You are literally between two languages when you read this book, one on the right and one on the left, which might be challenging on a page flipping level, but okay. So I insisted that was very important for me. Also, for part of my identity, I speak Italian. I know Italian people that don't speak English. I speak English, obviously, and know English people that don't speak Italian. It just sort of felt like a representation of me in that moment. And they were very open to sort of working with me on it like a small press can do. Of course, people who publish with much larger presses have a lot less freedom. And for me, it was important to have that kind of freedom with a small publisher like this as my very first, published book coming out.